Hey everybody, Edo here, and I am excited because I have Mike Paschal on the line. Say hello, Mike.
Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Tonight?
I expect they're good. They're not going to respond to you, though. And I'm excited. You and I spoke almost a year ago, maybe even more than a year ago, about distribution. You are the buyer for Peach State Hobby Distribution, PhD for short, one of the major distributors of board games in this wonderful world we live in. And I don't know, we hadn't talked in a while, so I thought it'd be fun to get back on the phone. Work for
Yeah.
you?
Well, I remember last time we talked for a really long time.
Yeah, it was like 45 minutes, and then the footage stopped, and I had to like piece it back together. But that was a really good conversation, and we're not going to like dive into all those topics. But if you want
Sure.
like an overview of board game distribution, you should watch our first Q&A because we like walk through it, boss mode, and I'll link it in the description.
Yeah.
Sound good?
It's good. I still get a lot of emails from that video as well, so it's pretty.
Well, let's cut to the chase on that so people don't have to like if people so like that's not what we're going to talk about, but if you've got a board game and you're looking for a distributor, they should email you. Is that still the case?
True. Yeah, they can shoot me an email, find me on Facebook.
And your
Anyway,
email is
Mike P at phdgames.com. So no
awesome.
like Mike period P. It's all just Mike P at phdgames.com. Right to the chase.
You
Yeah.
got it. You got it. So again, I was just excited to talk to you. I didn't really have much of a script going on, but I think I wanted to do a case study. I wanted to do a case study because right now I am in the process of doing backer fulfillment of Herbaceous Sprouts. So I have a game,
Okay.
Herbaceous Sprouts. Now I'm in a case where I do have a consolidator through Impressions or Flat River, whatever they're calling themselves now, probably Flat River.
Yeah.
And so I'm a person who has distributed products in the past. You've carried many of my games. Thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
But now that I am going from that Kickstarter phase, and I maybe know some of these answers, but we're going to talk about them anyway. But I'm going from this Kickstarter phase into the distribution phase. What are the things that I should be doing right now to make you happy and to make retailers happy?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. So when you say you're
I'm
going
taking
from the
notes.
yeah, well, when you say you're going from the distribution phase, you still went through Kickstarter, yes?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I did a Kickstarter first.
yeah. So you're just talking about you've gone through Kickstarter, you've funded, you've gone through manufacturing, and now you've got the products. You're going through fulfillment. Now you also need to go through distribution as well.
Right.
So yeah, it's a big question. So the things that I want to see from you are things that you're kind of already doing. You know, you are already very active in the community, so you're already driving interest to the products and your brand as Pencil First and Edo. So you're already doing that, which is great. That's super important. The next thing we need from you is getting your information to us, just the raw information, like sell sheets, product information, which we get that from Impressions. He sends all that information to us, so that's great there.
Though while he sends that, it's worth note to the audience, there's two versions of this. One is just like a basic solicitation, which is like name of the game, the SKU, like a blurb and a photo of the box. But then when you say sell sheet, I also create an actual little mini advertisement for the product. Here's an image of the game, a description, how much it costs, what's the MSRP, what kind of box does it come in, how much does it weigh, what's the dimensions, and probably a blurb on why people might enjoy buying it.
Yeah, it's basically a single piece of paper that gives the elevator pitch of the product right there and has the basic product information on it, and it looks pretty. If I remember correctly, your sell sheets I've seen in the past have always looked really good, so that's great. So your stuff has always been really, really great.
I try.
So that's kind of the basic, right? And then the other thing is I need to see you out at shows. That's the other thing. Going to shows, which you've gone to Gamma. Are you going to Gamma again this year?
I will be going to Gamma. We should have a drink, sir.
Will do.
or
I
coffee,
mean, if I can
whatever,
pry you away,
or tea or water, whatever you like.
yeah, if I can pry you away from Keith, sure. Yeah, but he's always there.
We
Are
like
you
to
at
hang
the, you
out.
have a booth? Right?
Yeah. Well,
Are
so
you there?
I upped. So okay. So for Gamma, one of the things that you can do as part of Impressions is we all share booths. But I'm actually, for the first time this year, being a premier partner or whatever. I'm doing a copy of a game to every retailer thing. To
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. So I'm is like basically the way Impressions work. Who's a consolidator? They bring like 15 people to the show, but 5 of the 15 are in this more expensive tier, Keith being one of them, of course, Keith Mateka. We have our own
Yeah.
table instead of sharing a table, but then we're part of the like pitches to retailers, and we have to fulfill the retailer bundle box thing, and a few other bits. So I'm stepping up my gamma
Yeah.
game.
You're stepping up your gamma. Yeah. So, well, one thing that you should do, and I don't think you did this last year, all of us distributors, we have little shelves for pieces of, sell sheets, printed out sell sheets. So if you want, please print some and bring them by to our booth, and we'll put them up in our flyer stands. And we also stuff them into the folders that we hand out to all of our retailers. So if you get me that information early, we can print them on our side ahead of time to put them into the folder, so we're not scrambling on the floor.
That's a good idea. Actually, in fact, you posted on Facebook about that, and if you're not in the board game industry group or some of these other tabletop groups, you should be as a small indie publisher. But you said, don't come to Gamma with your deals. Let us know of your deals before Gamma. And so I'm actually making those sell sheets now because of your comment. But I did not realize that you would distribute them for me. I will happily give you those files in advance.
Anything that any of our publishing partners want to give us before the show, we put them into the flyers and we give them out there. So also, if you have like a Gamma special, I know last year you were just doing like launch kit bundles for the very first time with legendary creatures and oh god, what was the other game?
You can do it. Picturesque.
No, I can't see it. I can see it's like beaches or something, right?
Sunset over water. That's close enough.
Yeah. I knew there were beaches. I couldn't remember the name of the title. So I know you did demo launch kits with those around the same time as Gamma, and I think that's when you announced it. So if you're doing something similar,
perhaps
I don't know how you do that with expansion. If you do like a Gamma special, is what I'm getting at. You have a Gamma special.
Well, it's not. I am. So one. I did do that for the first time at that show. I believe that too was from your recommendation, sir. But it was. I should do more evening. Most of my Q&As is like 6 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like fried because I haven't woken up. But now I'm fried on the other side because I work full time. But so anyway, I did the deal where it was buy 5 get the 6 free in a sort of demo kit type of way, and so I'm doing that again this year because it was wildly successful for my business. I mean, I don't, not in a big way, but they really performed well for me. And they're being announced at Gamma, but they're not like exclusive to being at Gamma. So like if you called the week after Gamma and asked for it, you could still get it.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, because that's how it was with Legendary Creatures as well. It was on the release from the product, not necessarily the Gamma special. Now, so we talked about Gamma a lot, and that everything we talked about with Gamma just now, you can apply that for other shows as well.
Sure. Sure, absolutely.
You get them out to your other partners. Like if you are at Gen Con, for example, just use the big one. You can have little plaques that a lot of distributors will go around and they'll put like distributed by this distributor. So if retailers come by, they can see it right then and there. But to get back on your question, we've kind of deviated a bit here. What can you do? What should you be doing to the distribution side?
So just have an awareness on social media. Get out in front of Gamma and let people know what you're going to do. Have a Gamma or promotional deal with a sell sheet. Be at cons. Be at be there. So then beyond that, and in particular, Gamma involves retailers, but what other things could I be doing to help ensure the success of the title in the market?
I don't want to say there's a perfect answer. There are good practices that you should be doing that are just, these are the tried and true. These are things that people expect to do. You are already doing them. So it's kind of hard to tell you that, but we'll kind of recap what you're doing. So you, as a smaller independent publisher, I don't know if you were aware of this at the time when you made that decision to start working with impressions, but it's a very crowded space.
Sure.
And when you're working with a consolidator like Impressions, they already have their foot in the door. They already have the relationships with those publishers or with those distributors. And with Impressions, it's global. It's not just the U.S. based. So we're so flooded right now that unless you're going to be dedicating a lot of your time to the networking, the salesmanship, the calling people up and spending all this time online and just going to all these shows, sign your game with somebody. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a game that's just absolutely amazing, and they are refusing to sign it away. And I can understand the struggle with that.
Sure,
it's something you hate. But you then can't be surprised when it's not successful. Right. If you're not putting in the elbow grease, all the elbow grease for it. Because if you're not putting 110% in, there's 100 people that are doing 120% right behind you.
For sure. And actually, I still feel strongly that I do. I appreciate the kind words, but as far as like my publisher business, I am not lifting the same weight as people who are really aggressively doing that business. And so for me, I'm sort of caught in that middle, but I still do try. In terms of getting to more specifics, because I still think there's probably things I could be doing better than covering the bases. If I wanted to make you happy right now, what would I be doing for you as a distributor?
The first thing that jumps to my mind is order due dates. Give me a date that I need to give you the orders by, period.
Interesting.
And that's super helpful. And for me, that single bit of information helps us understand and almost finally communicate that you're going to be doing a lot of marketing, or you're going to be doing marketing efforts, hopefully, around that same time that we would be as well.
Should I put that in the sell sheet? Or is that just in the email with the sell sheet?
In the email with the sell sheet, because the sell sheet's going to be used for all of the tiers. That's how you want it to be defined. And the order due date isn't necessarily important to retailers or end consumers at all. For me and distributors, it helps us organize and structure all the different things we're going to be working on in this time frame of product.
Right.
So that to me is incredibly helpful. I ask for it all the time. So for me in structure, it's really, really helpful. Another thing that I found really helpful is being very communicative. It's not a word.
I'm pretty sure communicative is a word. You're being quite communicative right now. We're using it as a word as we speak.
As we communicate.
We're communicative.
Mm-hmm.
That mad communication.
So being communicative with the current status of your products, even down to, and I saw one publisher do this a little bit ago. Actually, no, they gave me the information, and I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, that would be really great if this piece of information was on your product lists that you send out. So somebody was sending me, they put tracking out for, it was Gloomhaven, actually. It was when Aldo sent me the boat tracking information. And I just happened to have been looking at another publisher's product list at the exact same time, and they just had, it was on a boat. I was like, wouldn't it be great if I had the tracking number of the boat right there on that link so I could know this boat is tracking to dock on, December 18th or something.
Sure.
And if you have one product, it's a little helpful. If you have a whole catalog of products, it's really helpful to me to start working on restocks to ship with that. So that's going to either save you freight, me freight, save some time. It's also going to pad the ship, so they're going to have less damages that are going to happen there.
Sure.
So when I get the new releases and we only have 4 days to get it received in, unloaded, and back out to retailers, I don't have a 30-40% damage rate that's now completely eroded away all of my pre-orders. So having that information on when stuff is and where it is in the process is super helpful.
Interesting. And I know
Yeah.
there are some retailer or publishers, like I know Jamie Stegmaier has his elaborate distributor newsletter that he puts out that has sort of his progress on his different products. And that's, you know, a flag bearer in terms of that kind of information. Let me tilt the question on you for a second now. So I asked you as a distributor, as the same distributor, what would you love to see me doing directly with the retailers that would help you sell product?
Directly with retailers,
if at all.
Yeah, I mean, the demos that you've done are a really good thing. Retailers do appreciate it when there are demos available. One thing that we ran into as an industry and found out, let's say last year sometime, was retailers weren't finding demos in our systems when they were looking up the product.
Okay.
And I figured out that it's because our data entry teams are not being notified that there is a demo available. So I went to the game industry group and I started talking about demos, and I was like, look, when you solicit for a product and there's going to be a demo, you've got to tell us or give us a demo code, a SKU code. So when our data SKU get the product on announcement or release, they're also entering that SKU into our systems. And it sounds silly that you kind of have to say that, but when you think about data entry and how they work, it's not a very creative process. It's very robotic and 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step. So the publishers that have done that, which we still haven't gotten a lot that have, PSI and other consolidator, they do that now. And Yellow does as well when they announce that they say there's going to be a demo for this. So letting me know when you announce the product there's a demo is incredibly helpful, because we advertise and market that way. Our sales staff will leverage that there is a demo available. Right. They'll see it in the system, and they'll pre-order for both of them.
And so beyond the demo copy, like in this launch kit land, do you think, you know, it's valuable to do the table cover, or is it valuable to do the poster? Like, are any of those tchotchkes and side things worthwhile, or are those more of a waste?
They are. However, you have to be selective with the product that you're doing that with, and you have to be a little honest with yourself. And if you just have a game that's okay looking and it's good enough, so to speak, you really shouldn't bother with that. You know, we worked with James Hudson and Skybound, and we did a physical marketing asset package for Grim Forest because, well, that game was stunning looking. So we had posters in there and this kit for it. We had point of sale standees. We had leaflets and with instructions for the retailers how to use them. It was all this really cool assets that we sent out, and we did really, really well with that game. And it's I think that helped. The game itself was also really good, so it's kind of hard to separate those quantifying factors.
Sure. Well, it was most certainly a gorgeous game for sure.
Yeah. So we did it with that. I know Lucky Duck. I talked to them about it, and they did it with Chronicles of Crime, and it does work. It really does. Retailers
Has Chronicles of Crime just been killing it?
Yeah. Was that a pun? Was that a deliberate pun?
No, it wasn't a deliberate pun, but just watching that game, Vincent, you know, seeing him and his team grow has been pretty awesome. He's one of those guys that sort of crossed the threshold onto Kickstarter around the same time I did. But you know, we don't all have the same trajectories. Another question for you, gonna just keep on rolling. So let's say my name is Keith Mateka. And I wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? My friend Ed didn't ask me if I could ask this question. Let's just imagine a world where I'm off the cuff. And let's say I
think he'll be fine. I know him. We know him well. He'll be fine.
And let's say I'm a Kickstarter guy, and I've done a bunch of Kickstarters. But I'm actually considering doing a small box direct-to-retail product. Let's just imagine I'm considering that.
Sure.
Is there something? Is there an advice you would give to a Kickstarter creator who's like, I do the Kickstarter thing. I don't mind doing the Kickstarter thing, but it'd be nice to be able to do something small off a Kickstarter and just go straight to retail with it. What what should I keep in? Yeah. What kind of advice would you give said Keith person?
Well, that person, if maybe they made a game called Role Player, maybe you should probably leverage that fact really heavily.
Right.
The games like that have done really, really well in retail. So leveraging from the creators, producers, designers, whatever, of successful previous title obviously is a good advertising point that you can
and
leverage.
That would be essentially driven through the sell sheet at that point, mostly?
Yes, through the sell sheet, and this figurative, this imaginary person, they maybe probably also work with impressions. So that would also be another advertising arm. Yeah. So this is kind of I get what you're getting at. It's kind of an unfair question because the stepping stones are in place already for either of you, right? You already have that in with distributors with getting us the information. We're gonna buy your game, period. Right? It's just gonna be the thing. So.
I was trying to ask more specific questions. I mean, when we talked in our first video is a really good, like, I have no entry point at all into it. But okay, let's say my name isn't Keith.
Yeah.
Let's say my name isn't Keith.
Let's say you just had success. Let's use Jamie Stagmeyer, even though that's still a large name. He still went direct from Kickstarter, or went from Kickstarter only to cold turkey. Everything off, right?
And man, he learned some lessons from that. You can follow them on his blog. Yeah.
So, it's a tricky thing because there's so much volume out there right now. There's so much stuff, but you have to leverage what you've done in the past, and you've gotta not be afraid to kind of like look what I've done in the past. I want to go forward with this. It's going to help you as a brick and mortar store, as a retail store. I want my games in your stores. I'm not doing Kickstarter anymore. Please let's make this happen. Right. So that alone will turn some heads, and that fact of doing that, and retailers will pay attention to you. Now, beyond that, how do you make it successful? You've got to reach out to your previous Kickstarter community and make sure they're aware.
Right.
Like, hey, this is coming out. You've got to go to your game stores and find this. What you can do is you can be a little preemptive and get stores to sign up with you with like a store locator, and then post that store locator link in the comment section or the updates for the previous Kickstarters, and they just type in their zip code and they find.
Is there like a universal store locator like website where I'm like, I want a store locator, and they'll give me one? Is that something you can just find online?
Yeah, you can just find it through like Google Maps and stuff like that, and I think you can find it in Google Maps. I could be wrong in that, but I know they're not difficult to find. That kind of like a locating service, but there isn't one that's like game industry store locator where you're looking for a list of all these different games you could find. No, that doesn't exist.
Got it.
So
okay,
they're out there. They're easy enough to make, and there's various sites to do it.
Right.
But that's a good one to drive those customers that you've already established to the stores. That's the tricky part is merging them up, because as much as people want to say that Kickstarter dollars cannibalize brick and mortar stores, I don't believe it's that much. There's still a Venn diagram, and there's still a small section. That
for sure. Well, and actually, that's one of the things for me. I haven't heavily done pre-order campaigns. I do them here and there, but usually it's sort of like, well, if they missed the Kickstarter, what I really want you to do is go to a store and buy it, right? Like, I want distributors and retailers to be making money off the product, because that represents a large portion of the business, and in many ways, as a Kickstarter creator, the easier part of the business, right? Like when Herbaceous is selling independently of me having to do all the stuff, it's a pretty big win. Actually, I want to segue the segue. You mentioned Jamie Stegmaier, and he did this interesting blog post recently where he was like, lamenting Wingspan and how he printed 10,000 copies and he didn't know what retailers wanted and hey, retailers and distributors, we need to do something about this problem. And sort of in the same span, Dave Salisbury, who's a very vocal, I think that's his last name, right? Vocal retailer. Also sort of, what'd you say?
He's out of the UK.
Out of the UK, but he is a retailer, right? He has stores.
Yeah.
Also, sort of brought up this topic of what can we do as retailers to help this industry problem of supply and demand and having enough copies and things out there.
It's been a fun thread.
Yeah, I mean, his threads get so many comments, I just give up. But so did Jamie's blog, and I don't know. I sort of have a different opinion than maybe what would have been the supportive opinion. But I'm curious from your side. What do you think about that situation?
So, I mean, obviously, I have a lot of direct insight relationships there. Like I was part of that whole process. Or lack thereof, whatever you want to call it. Jamie,
Wingspan, do you mean?
With Wingspan, yeah. With Jamie, it's he's every experience with him and his products is kind of an anomaly. You don't really expect to keep selling this $80-90 board game in huge volume for 3 years. Scythe is a monster. It just isn't stopped selling. The demand is incredibly high. Every time we get it in, it goes out. So everything he does is a bit of an anomaly. I don't fault Jamie at all for anything that happened with Wingspan. I don't fault him selling a huge portion of the print run direct. I don't fault him for that. It's hard to.
Can I fault him? Can I fault him a little bit? Do you mind?
Sure. Well, I mean, I can't. I mean, I can. As a business partner, as someone who expects him to make the best decisions for all of his partners, I guess I can kind of go, hey, shame on you. But really, how do you fault somebody for, saying, hey, don't sell your game for, twice as much as you would sell it to me? It's hard to do that.
Well,
I do fault him,
go ahead,
is the point when the game was the way he announces products. I'm not keen on. I don't necessarily disagree with the whole process. There's tweakings that need to happen. But this particular thing with Wingspan, the moment between announce and when he released sales through his website, that window in there, he needed to come back to us and talk to us and find out what our actual now tangible demand is at.
Sure.
And put maybe a lower threshold on what was going to be available to distributors. Because I can tell you right now, what we're getting as a company is laughable. It's almost like, and this is collective for everyone I've talked to. It's almost like, why do we even have it? It's just created.
Admittedly, the first run of Gloomhaven was about the same, right? Where it was like, you've ordered 100 and you're going to get 2.
Yeah, Gloomhaven was we got more Gloomhavens. It actually was a same problem, but we had a better answer to it. This one is just like,
well, to cut to the chase a little bit on my end, to Jamie's credit, right? He's always trying like different combinations of pre-orders and online things to marry the fact that he wants to do business in distribution. He wants to do business in retail, but he's also got this larger-than-life online community and army of people that respond direct. His tribe is really big, and he wants to support his tribe, so he's always trying to figure it out. The thing that I was going to that I faulted him for, sort of reading through it, was sort of like he can no longer be humble. Right? Like the days where he's like, I could make a game and maybe it's not going to sell 10,000 copies is like, man, you are past that point. And you're past the point of like, even if you overprint, you'll sell it over time. Right. Like, so, and you got to run a business. You've got a lot of expenses. I'm sure he can get leveraged, but
that's kind of where his caution comes from. That didn't happen with Charterstone. the way, and Charterstone was the first game that he broke away from Kickstarter and went to direct to retail. So he came to us, all of us distributors, and we gave him what we thought our numbers were going to be. And we were foolish enough to kind of assume that it was going to be the same, along the same lines as Scythe, right?
Well,
the problem is that, which I didn't think about it at the time, hindsight as it is, but legacy games are kind of like when you're buying the ratio of games. It's kind of like when you're buying the same ratio for like a Dungeon Master's Guide for D&D. The game plays for 6 people, but only one person will buy it ever. Most board games, if you play with 4 people, there's a good chance one other person at that table is going to go buy it.
Yeah.
With a game like Charterstone, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to have 6 people.
You've talked me down, man. I apologize. Yeah. I apologize, Jamie. I'm sorry. I thought that I still think though, and I'm pretty sure that Charterstone run was very large, but
it was really large. It still sells. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It was a Fallen Empire scenario for anyone that knows that reference.
Of course. But still, I feel like, at some point, you gotta look at where you are in your marketplace, and I don't know. I was reading that and I was like, how are retailers going to really get you that information in a meaningful way? Like, sort of, as a publisher, you've got to just be, work to gauge your opportunity space. And it seems like he's got a pretty big opportunity space.
Yeah, we did have a conversation at Gen Con about it, and the conversation was kind of limited to, what do you think about a game about birds? And my response was, meh, but it's got your name on it, so it's going to sell. But that's literally it. That's all of the, here's my information.
Games about birds.
Yeah.
It's got little eggs in it, man. It's got little eggs in it.
We didn't know that at the time. If I knew there were going to be egg meeples, I would have told him more. So we all kind of told him the same thing, because we were also coming out of Between Two Castles that didn't do amazing. It did good, but it didn't do amazing. And that follows Charterstone, which all of us are still sitting on, still have stock on it. I can understand why he was a little cautious. Now, if he would have told me it's a game about birds, meh, but it's got your name on it, and it plays like Terraforming Mars or the other things that people keep saying, and I'm like, okay, yeah, please print a lot more. And if he wasn't as quiet about his games as he has been, and the development process, when he was doing the development of Charterstone, he caught a lot of I don't know, disgruntled end consumers during that process, because the game was out there. So entities like us and GTS and other distributors were marketing the product because it existed. We knew it was going to come. So just start collect pre-orders now. Stores started listing it on their websites, and then consumers were like, how are people taking pre-orders and the game doesn't even exist? Like, do you not understand how Kickstarter works? Like, that's the whole thing of Kickstarter.
Yeah, well, people can. I know Gavin from Roxley Games hates it, and why he won't release MSRPs early anymore, because you sort of get to a point where if a partner or retailer knows like you're good on it, like, hey, they announced the game, they're gonna finish it, I can start pre-ordering it, right? And even without perfect dates.
When it comes to Kickstarters, we're really cognizant of not putting that information out there. As a matter of fact, there was a publisher who gave us the product information while they were still running the Kickstarter, and I made sure, I went to my data entry guy, I went to my marketing team, I'm like, look, let's not put anything out right now. Don't even make the product visible in our system, because we don't want to be part of the problem that's going to happen in a week or two when the publisher gets all mad because these websites are collecting pre-orders at $15 below the Kickstarter value.
Yeah, no, it's rough. It's rough. And so I agree. And so I'll, again, it's interesting. I when I think of Stonemaier Games, as sort of not a bellwether, but sort of a front runner in sort of this emergent marketing space and campaign space. I mean, they're really, you know, burning the way or cutting through the path to figure out what these business models can work for. And so, you know, I know it's been very challenging for Jamie, and I think especially because he cares so much. He cares probably, you know, like the amount he probably internalized it is crazy. I'm actually, just so you know, I'll probably, considering actually how in depth we just went into his business, I'll probably share this with him early to be like, hey man, are you cool with that? So if just double check. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll have a little clip in it, a little cut. But no, I mean, I think that's the challenge, right? And Dave was also sort of getting on this thing about what can retailers do, and he had some not outlandish, but sort of out there suggestions about, hey, maybe we could have our own retailer site and a pre-order thing and like band together. I actually think that's a pretty legitimate idea. It's just interesting and hard to imagine how you'd go about it.
Like, that system's already in place with retailers. They pre-order with us, then the publishers just come talk to us, distributors, and we have that information. Done.
Well, so then why would he be suggesting that? Or am I misunderstanding his suggestion?
No. So one of the consistent issues in our industry is communication or lack thereof. A lot of people
being communicative. If you
communicative, yeah. People don't ask, nor do some people share. I don't understand why that would happen, but communication, being proactive with communication, is definitely something that's lacking. I rarely have somebody coming to me and asking me, you know, like a month or two before pre-orders are due, hey, what are your numbers like? What can we do to help? That almost doesn't exist. I can count those publishers on like one of my hands rather. And even then, when it comes to being consistent about that, I don't think there is a single one that has ever come back to me with every single title they've done that's wanted feedback on how we're doing with it up to the point of release. Maybe James Hudson, but I might be that might be just my personal experience with him because we talk so often about stuff, and I'm so keen with his products.
Well, that's always, I mean, to some degree, that's always a gap for me, right? Like when I'm working with distributors, it's sort of like, I know sell through into retail. Like I know when product moves through warehouse and if it's getting stuck at distributors to some degree or another. But what I don't know is how that order is doing at retailers, right? Other than just sort of waiting to hear if distributors come back and ask for more. So you get to this interesting place where you're like, oh, well, so I printed 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 copies. They've all sold out. But
how many are sitting on shelves at stores? Like,
right. Are they just sitting, and I have games, I know that Legendary Creatures, for example, is one of those games that I think probably sold through better through distribution than it did at retail. And it's hard to know right now I know that I don't have any inventory left. Do you have any Legendary Creatures left? Do you know off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I want to say I do, but it's going to be like single digits and maybe 3 or 4 of our warehouses. Yeah. Not all of them.
Yeah. It dried up
on it anyways, but I also don't have a whole lot of it left. So.
Right. Yeah. No, but that was a title that's sort of been that way, whereas, I know that Herbaceous, on the other hand, still has a pretty steady clip moving through when we get units.
You had a stock problem with that at first. The first couple waves that it did really, really the gate. So that was good.
Yeah, no. Your Herbaceous has been good, and we have another load coming in, which came in with Herbaceous Sprouts, and that'll be really interesting to see, because actually you mentioned expansion. Herbaceous Sprouts is a standalone, but it's like a cousin, so it'll be interesting to see. Like, one of the questions I have is sort of, I have this line of games with the Steve Finn and Beth Sobel and Keith Matejka solo group, But they don't live under one name exactly. You've got Herbaceous, you've got Sensitive Water, you do have Herbaceous Sprouts now. You'll have the next game we're doing, but they're not. It's not like one universe exactly. So it's interesting to see how they do, whether or not they're going to reignite sales of the other things. Like somebody's going to play Herbaceous and be like, oh, I should get Sprouts, or oh, they have a Sunset Over Water, I'm going to go pick that up, that kind of thing.
Do you have an ad sheet inside of the game?
I don't yet, but I did start it. So not with Herbaceous and not with Heroes Welcome either, but with Skull Hollow, I'll have a little, I'm making a Pencil First Games like product pamphlet thing.
Yeah. The other thing that, you know, Tasty Minstrel does this a lot, and I like it. They put on the inside box, on the outer wall, they'll have advertisements for their other games there, like printed on it, instead of like an extra sheet. It's just part of the sheet of the box. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. You mean like printed on the actual cover, on the inside cover type of thing?
Yeah, let me just pull something out here.
Nice move, sir.
Yeah.
Bro.
So, like, open the box, and on this wall of the inside box, around, they'll have an advertisement for other games that they have in stock. So
yeah. I went with the pamphlet, but that was another option.
All of it.
Go ahead.
All of that works. I mean, it's just as long as you're advertising for it. But yeah, we'll definitely see some tie-in sales there without a doubt, especially with us, because when we get this solicitation from Aldo, I'm cognizant of aware of the other products that you've had, that when I give my selling tip notes to our sales staff, I'll be sure to call out Herbaceous.
Oh, thank you. And that'll and again, getting it back in stock at the same time will be good. And so it'll be interesting to see how those move. Though I was, my run of Herbaceous Sprouts is a big run, but on the conservative side, just to throw myself into Jamie's boat, though he's like 50 times more successful. But there is that. It is a hard decision. I made the judgment call that, I think it'll be in line with Herbaceous for the first run. I didn't make the call like, oh no, it's going to be twice as successful as Herbaceous because Herbaceous did its thing, and that's a audience I'm going to ignite into buying this. It's a different price point, so that it's a step up on the game side. So perhaps it'll be more, it'll be less.
When are we going to see Herbaceous Sprouts? When's that? That's coming.
End of February.
Now?
Yeah.
End of February?
So
I know with the Kickstarter, you already did some videos. You already had preview people do preview videos and stuff. Are you doing other online reviewers to look at your product, to look at this game?
Oh, yeah. So basically what I do...
This kind of thing, to re-spike that interest.
So I have... anyone who's ever previewed or reviewed a game, plus anyone that has reached out to me that I know or whatever, I have a list of, it's probably about 50. I want to say it's 50 reviewers that they just get it automatically. Whether or not they're going to review it, they're just going to in the next 5 days open up their door and have a copy of it.
Sure.
And actually, it was funny. It's so long now that I was like, the proper thing I usually do is I check addresses again. Oh, have you moved? Can I ship it to you? But I was like, the over under is 1 or 2 of these is going to be wrong and I'll get a bounce back. I'm just going to send it to the old addresses and see what happens. But the other thing is we'll see. I'm trying to get Rodney to do a how to play. He did Herbaceous, but he has to play it and see if it, or I sent him a copy. He's going to look at it and see if it feels right for him because he's pretty constrained on time. But so hopefully I can have the watch it played. Hopefully I'll have the reviewers picking it up. I mean, I also think it happens to be, the best game we've put out to date.
It looks really good. I can't wait to get a hold of it. So it looks really good.
And I should
Yeah.
put you guys on a list too. Like you guys end up hearing about it, but there's no reason you guys can't have a copy too. I should probably do
A
that.
demo copy? It helps a lot.
Well, but there's a demo copy, but just a check it out copy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It helps a lot because we bring it in and we put it in our sales staff hands, and usually we'll wind up playing some of them, as long as it lines up
I
with
was
it.
gonna. So I'm prepping those sell sheets for you guys, and just making sure the data is correct. But when I send that out, I'll confirm your addresses and get you guys a copy. I mean, I mean you and other distributors. But I mean, this is
Yeah.
sort of the ongoing conversation about it all. So, we've now actually been on this chat as long as we were on the original chat. So
Oh
I'd
no,
like to.
y'all mess up.
I feel like I could be mistaken, but I feel like that was before my Kickstarter where I got the better computer. So I think I'm okay. But, this was a ranging discussion, but I sort of just wanted to talk and wanted to like bring up these examples. It was sort of specific to Pencil First Games or other publishers who I'll have to reach out to and check in and see if they're cool.
Bye.
Yeah,
Vision?
yeah. Well, I don't like to burn bridges,
Yeah.
but no, it was good, and I hope that for people watching, at a minimum, they get the impression that you're easy to talk to, and that if they feel like this is a publisher and they want your opinion or perspective, that they can just ask you these questions and get tailored answers.
Yeah. I mean, I talk to so many people at this point. Yeah, I'm open to talking to anybody, even if we don't work together on something. If you just need advice on something, I'm open to that. So there was something that I wanted to bring up before we got away from herbaceous sprouts a little bit here, and this can help other people as well. And I've mentioned it to a couple publishers, and I don't think anybody took me up on it. But if you want your game to, and this is something that someone needs to try. I don't know if it'll work because no one's done it yet. When your game is launching, right, like the release date, for the MSR, the retailer release date, prior to that, come up with a tagline, a name, for example, with like herbaceous sprouts. There's all kinds of plant-based terminology you could use.
All right, I'm listening.
Come up with a day and call it whatever day, something day, that's on the same day as the release day, and encourage the backers of the game to go into the stores and teach people how to play the game that they've already had for like a month, so that the store has basically free demoers in there playing the game, incentivizing people to buy the retail copies that are on the shelf right then and there. So that would be really helpful. Go in and teach someone how to play the game. And that's the whole idea of board games, is going to meet people. Go into a store and meet someone you've never played with before and teach them a game that you love.
I'll take that on. I'll take that on for sure. I think, like Jamie has his crew and there's some other people that may have done similar things, but I'm for it. We're going to have, it'll be Herbaceous Sprouts Day. Or it'll be, like, I'm trying to think of a day that we had. Like, there's lavender, rosemary, bay. Is there anything that starts with a tarragon? I think, did we put tarragon in? We pulled a couple herbs out from herbaceous and herbaceous sprouts, but maybe we'll have Tarragon Tuesday. Nothing like Tarragon Tuesday.
Tarragon Tuesday.
we'll figure it out. But no, yeah, I'll give that a shot. I'll do that. And not every retail.
Your Kickstarter backers to like go to BGG and rate the game.
That one I do. Yeah, but certainly that's one where. It doesn't always happen, but I do. I'll let everyone get the game, and then my email, I'm like, hope you got the game. But I like your Tuesday thing because you could put a hashtag on it. You could put do it a contest
thing, and drive. And then stores will appreciate that because, like, out of the blue, why are there 3 people in this store playing this game and using this hashtag and tagging my store, and all these people are coming here that don't have, that have no idea why does my store exist? Why do I all of a sudden have 7,000 reach on this post that I'm in when my average reach is like 400 or something, right?
Yeah, I guess the only interesting part would be like, I can't judge whether stores in the area of these backers have copies. So they might be going to a store playing with people and not have copies. But that's probably not the end of the world either.
No, I mean, and you can have that conversation, have that part of the conversation you're talking about it in the update to the people who did back the game. If you're going to go to a store, let them know ahead of time, hey, I'm going to be here on Board Game Day X to play this game. Is that cool? Awesome. And maybe the store will just bring in like 2 copies to make sure they have it there for someone who's going to play games there. It's all about communication and being proactive. We go back to that. Being proactive with communication and giving people the ideas on how to use things. So,
no, I like it. So I'm going to cut this video. This is a beast of a video, and hopefully it saves all right and does its thing. But thank you so much for the time. Thank you for everyone watching. And hopefully somewhere in here was nuggets or at least an interesting conversation.
All right. Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.